From outclassing some of the toughest competition out there to his unbelievable title defenses, Jon Jones is the GOAT of MMA. And here's why that is. See, the first and probably most obvious reason is the fact that Jon Jones is basically undefeated. Like, the guy has a record of 26 wins and only a single loss. It's one of the greatest records in MMA. But that one loss he suffered wasn't because his opponent was better than him. Not at all. He lost that fight after being disqualified for hitting Matt Hamill with some illegal blows. And if you ask me, there was no chance Hamill could have won that fight if it wasn't for the disqualification.
Talk about it, and I understand where you're coming from. And he was better than anyone to be in the top 5.
Full mount. He's taking some big elbows, Mike. Steve Mazzagatti right on top of the action.
Jones was all over him in that fight, but ultimately his intensity got the better of him. And yeah, Bones himself has had some controversial wins in his career, like his unanimous decision win against Dominic Reyes. Dom had Jones right on the edge of defeat, and people still question those judges. But if you keep those two fights aside, Jones is basically undefeated on paper. He's been an absolute nightmare for his opponents for the better part of a decade. But see, here lies the problem. He isn't the only one who's done so. Other fighters like Khabib Nurmagomedov and Georges St. Pierre also make a pretty good case when it comes to being the GOAT. Khabib retired undefeated, and Pierre is probably one of the best fighters the MMA world has ever seen.
155, the official weight for Khabib Nurmagomedov.
10th career win. He is the all-time best in UFC history.
But see, a lot of people believe that Jones is a level above them, and there's one reason for that: consistency. Now, Jones has been on the scene for a long time. He made his MMA debut back in 2008 and hasn't looked back since. It's no surprise that he won 3 straight fights in the UFC. That disqualification loss against Hamill has put a small dent in his legacy, but Bones recovered quickly from that as well. He won the light heavyweight championship in his 8th UFC fight. If that's not recovering quickly, then what is? And since then, every fight involving Jon Jones has been a title fight. That's just insane. That's proper dominance. From 2008 till now, that's almost 15 years. And there's no question about the fact that Bones is still at the top of his game. I mean, what he did with Cyril Gane on Sunday justifies my point. Gane's a quality fighter and Jones still won. That takes some talent. But things like this have become routine for Bones by now. Like, the man has faced and defeated some of the toughest competition in MMA. Mauricio Rua, Rashad Evans, Quentin Jackson, Vitor Belfort, Alexander Gustafsson, Daniel Cormier, Glover Teixeira, all of them have fallen to Jon Jones. No other fighter comes even close to him in this department. None of them.
Official weight 248 for Mr. Jones.
Jones to the body. And it is all over!
And this is where Jones has an edge over every other fighter in the world. It's not always about how many fights you win. It's also about who you have defeated. And the quality of competition Jon has faced in his career is out of this world. He's been fighting off savages right from the start of his UFC career. And along the way, he added a few future UFC Hall of Famers to his resume as well. Bones himself has once said that if you ask the experts to compare his resume with that of Khabib, you'll notice that Khabib hasn't fought much competition in his life. Most of the guys he brushed off are unknown. But I've been fighting legends since I was a young man, said Jones. And he's absolutely right about this. And what do you need in order to brush off some of the greatest fighters in the world? A skill set that's out of this world. And Jones has it.
That your UFC heavyweight title fight is now official.
Like, the MMA world has never seen a more well-rounded fighter than Jon Jones. You can't point out even one thing wrong with his game. You name it, Jones has it. Striking? Check. Intensity? Check. Defense? Check. And don't even get me started on his wrestling. When it comes to that, Jones is out of this world. I mean, you don't become the first man to take Daniel Cormier down by being bad at wrestling. As for his striking ability, there's only one word to describe it: deadly. And then there's his experience with Muay Thai. No fighter in the world stands a chance against it. Bones is capable of using his elbows, knees, feet, and hands. He has so many different attacking options that the opponent is confused about his next move most of the time. But his fighting isn't only about attacking. Jones's survival skills are also outrageous. He has the power to take and absorb punches. No matter how hard you hit him, he'll still be standing at his feet. We've all seen him survive some of the most dangerous punchers in the game, but that was until he met Reyes. Yes, he still won that fight, but you know how it went. I've already talked about that. If you're looking to create an ideal MMA fighter, you'd want him to have the same set of skills and power as Jon Jones. It's as simple as that, and Jones's amazing combat skills helped him to put his name in the UFC history books. Just hear this out.
I got slammed really hard the week of a fight in Anaheim, and
Jon Jones holds the most number of title fight wins with 14 wins to his name. This means that 71% of his fights inside the octagon were title fights. Do you understand how good you have to be able to qualify for that many title fights? Insane! He also has the most wins in the light heavyweight division with 20. And that's not all. Bones holds the record for the longest unbeaten streak in UFC history with 19 wins to his name. Those are crazy numbers. And on top of all that, Jones also became the youngest champion in UFC history after his win against Alexander Gustafsson. He was 23 years and 242 days old when he won a championship. Now, I'm not saying that these numbers alone make him the greatest of all time, but all the different aspects of his game that I've presented make him the one and only. I mean, there's no athlete in the sport's whole history who has a stronger case than Jon Jones. Fighters like Anderson Silva,
Like we said, second to none. Oh! He front kicked him in the face.
George St. Pierre, and Demetrius Johnson have similar sorts of accomplishments.
Oh, big right, DJ. He's standing. Big knee. That's it.
But Bones has an edge over them in each and every department. No matter how much you hate him, you'll just have to accept the fact that he's the greatest of all time. Plus, there's no debate left after what he did at UFC 285. Let me ask you one thing. Is there anything left to debate about after his win against Gane? There's only one possible answer to that question, and it's a big no. Jones was stepping into the octagon after almost 3 years, and he was facing the current heavyweight champion in a completely new division after a long absence. Do you know how tough it is? And to win against Gane in only the first round of the fight is sensational. If this doesn't make him the greatest of all time, then what does? And it's not just me. Athletes from all around the world think that Jones is the greatest. The NFL GOAT Tom Brady called Jones the greatest in a video message before his fight against Gane. These are just facts, people, and the only thing you can do is accept it. This is Jon Jones's world, and we're just living in it. That's all for why Jon Jones is the greatest MMA fighter of all time.
you look at the science. Instead of taking, but that's not what it was. It was pops. When I looked down initially, I saw something white.
I think I am a bad guy that's trying to be good.